We will now reconvene and resume the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is now 7:01 p.m. Board trustees present are Captain Donald Davis, Jana Gonzalez, Justine Durant, Deborah Jensen, and Chris Bell. I would like everyone to turn off or silence your cell phones or electronic devices at this time, and thank you. Tonight's presentation of the colors will be announced by Captain Davis.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight's presentation of the color will be led by the Spring Lions Regiment. Commanding the color guard is Cadet Captain Channa Biak, Commanding Officer of the Lions Regiment. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Cadet Lieutenant Jason Borders, and the Texas Pledge will be led by Cadet Ensign Steve Terrazas. Carrying American flag is Cadet Petty Officer Second Class Kyle Stain. Carrying the state flag is Cadet Chief Petty Officer Solomon Foster Smith. At this time, will you please, everyone please rise for the presence of the colors and remain standing.
Order. March. Up. Right. Up. Up. Color guard. Hold. Present. Colors.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor and Texas flag.
I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Order. Colors. Ready. Cut. Color guard. Move. Post the colors. March. Post. Colors. Ready, cut. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Ready, cut. Color guard. Base. Forward. March.
At this time, I would like everyone to observe a moment of silence in your own way. Thank you. I don't know if it's because we've been on summer break or not, but those young men certainly looked sharp, didn't they? Yes.
Madam President, we didn't get a chance to acknowledge the instructor.
Okay.
The senior instructor is Captain Boyer, James Boyer. It was not part of the script. We didn't get a chance to acknowledge him.
Very impressive. I would recognize our superintendent for the superintendent's remarks tonight, Dr. Rodney Watson.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen, and guests in the audience, as well as trustees. And we have several announcements tonight. First of all, we are truly blessed and excited to be back in the district. We know that a lot of our families in our community are actually going through a hard time out there, and so we've really pulled together and to work together. As you know, it's almost like starting a second year in 1 year. And so just some of the enrollment numbers, I know several of you have wanted information. Currently today, we have 35,750 students. That is actually more students than we had on the 24th of August when we last took our numbers before the flood. And so we're continuously enrolling new students. We do have 261 homeless students to date. When we looked at this time last year, we had 155. So currently, as of today, we have 261 homeless students. And we're suspecting those numbers will continually to increase as we go through this next several weeks after people are still getting situated. But we did open up all of our campuses on Monday, and we are very, very happy to see all of our students and staff back to work. As you know, in our conversations, our facilities really fared well in the storm, and many of our employees, though, however, suffered. We're going to show you a short video right now just to kind of depict some of the things that we saw and went through as the flood came.
I'm Adrian Futch. I work at Converse Elementary, and I'm a fourth grade science and social studies teacher.
Got the audio, yes.
Jason, just let me know when you're ready to go. I'll keep going. As you know, we've partnered with the Spring ISD Foundation to raise funds on behalf of our affected students and staff. As of today, we've raised a little over $42,000 donated, including a $20,000 gift from the Spring ISD Foundation. And so we really like to say a special thank you to the Spring ISD Foundation for donating $20,000 to help with our efforts. Our campus leaders are also working with our students and teachers to help the process the event through our counseling programs that are going on within our schools. It was interesting, as I shared with you all on Thursday night, we had a circle with our principals. Our principals also had circles with their teachers and teachers with students. And this really provides our community an opportunity to really just process what's going on before just jumping right back in. On Thursday, our Family and Community Engagement Department will be distributing donated school supplies for all of our campuses. We definitely want to thank Walmart for being so generous, to being one of our partners, and they've donated funds as well to help us in our relief. On Monday, September the 18th, we will have our first embedded professional development day for more than 2,400 teachers. 3 sessions will be held at Spring, Westfield, and Decaney High Schools, with all teachers attending one session based upon their new feeder pattern. So you should be getting information regarding that. Highlighting the sessions will be a special keynote from Damon Lopez, the author of No Excuses University. It's the book that I've shared with each of you. He's going to share strategies of how to promote academic excellence with our students. Are you ready? Let's go ahead and look at the video.
I'm Adrian Futch. I work at Converse Elementary, and I'm a fourth grade science and social studies teacher. We were one of the neighborhoods that got hit the hardest. We had a water line of 2 feet, and so because it sat stagnant for about 2 days, it rose up 2 more feet, and we had to cut 4 feet of drywall and insulation from our home. So we essentially lost all furniture. I was able to save my clothes, but I lost basically everything that was 4 feet or lower. I got a lot of help from the community. Teachers that had come out of the woodwork came to help out. I had great faith in humanity, and it has just empowered it even more. There are no words to describe the appreciation that the staff and the students and their families will have if you're donating to this foundation. I've gotten so much support that I'm actually going to give to it rather than receive from it. Keep a positive attitude. We're going to get through this because we are a strong community, and there is nothing that we won't do to get us back on our feet.
That's truly the sentiment that everyone is feeling around the district. I know on one of the days that we were working in one of the shelters, Commissioner Morath gave me a call to find out how we were doing in spring and what was going on. He had heard that we had opened up 2 shelters. We had an opportunity to meet with him as a superintendent's group on Friday, and he talked with us about all the things the state is working to help districts with in the aftermath of the hurricane. Today I had an opportunity to meet with the Lieutenant Governor And he also talked about what the government is going to be doing to work with us as well. And one of the things that he stated was they're really working with districts so we'll be held harmless in terms of student enrollment based upon the funding for this year. And so, sometimes we hear information and we wonder if it's going to come to fruition. We did get an email from the Commissioner Morath this afternoon letting us know that they are working on that to make sure that our average daily attendance will not be affected based upon that. And so we'll continue to update you as we move forward. We have let our community know that through September the 29th that our students will have an opportunity to have free breakfast and lunch. You know that we will have free breakfast for all students for the remainder of the year, but we are also offering free lunch for the end of the month. Every day counts. So September is Attendance Awareness Month, and we're going to be working with Hurricane Harvey, which forced us to cancel our September the 9th Success Walk. So you all did get that cancellation that we weren't able to have what we used to call Graduation Walk. We're going to be rescheduling that, and so once we have new dates for you, we'll definitely let you know. However, specifically, we will announce later this month the attendance incentive program for full-time teachers. If you remember during our budget process, we talked about the attendance incentive, and you all voted for us to go ahead and offer that incentive for our bus drivers. At that time, we did talk with you about bringing forth another incentive for teachers, and so tonight we'll be sharing a little bit more with you about that as we continue to work on our strategic compensation programs. Mark was not able to be with us last Thursday night, and so we did say that we were going to move all of his presentations for tonight, and so he's going to be providing you a bond update. With all the architects now selected, as well as the contractors, we're going to find out where we are and look at the timeline to make sure that we're continuing to move forward as we plan. My last comment is we're happy to announce that one of our great principals at Burchett Elementary was just promoted into HR to be our Director of Talent Acquisition, which left the principal position open at Burchett Elementary. And so this morning, Dr. Hannah Host and I did the final interviews, and we're happy to say that we have selected a new principal for Burchett Elementary School. I'm going to ask Yvette Casas to please stand up and come forward. Let's give her a round of applause. Yvette comes to us with many years of experience here in Spring ISD. She was an assistant principal at Bammel Middle School several years ago, and she's currently the assistant principal at Pat Reynolds Elementary School. Come on closer to the mic. New principal, get ready. Would you please just share a few words about yourself and how excited you are about your new role?
Well, I have to say, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a very humbling feeling standing here before you, knowing that I have a wealth of information, just in all of you and in this community. So thank you for this opportunity. Just a little bit about myself, 17 years in education. I'm ready for this endeavor. I'm excited. I'm ready to jump in. I'm excited to meet the new Bobcat family. So hopefully there are a few members from Burchett here because I can't wait to meet them. Just once again, thank you. I'm very humbled by this, and I hope to fulfill the expectations that you have and the faith that you have in me. Thank you.
Thank you. We're really excited about the new leadership that she's going to bring to Burchett, as well as Mr. Lewis, the principal of Reynolds. Mr. Lewis, will you please stand? We know that we've stolen someone from you, but thank you so much for training her. That does conclude my report for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. Next, I would like to ask if any trustees have some remarks they would like to make.
Well, I'd like to go first. I had an opportunity to talk to you all at the workshop about during the time period of Hurricane Harvey. As I visited Westfield High School and Spring High School, all our alumni, students, former students, some students I taught, some students I knew while I was at Westfield High School that came back just to get back to their community. And that's what I love about living in this area. I've been for 20-some years now. When I retired from the military and coming to this area, I know it was not a mistake. We always seem to come together when in a needed, in a hostile, or even in unpleasant situations. We come together as a family. It's just amazing, all the former students that I taught and the other students that we have known throughout the years came back just to give back to their community, just to be a helping hand. That was amazing.
Good evening, everyone, and I want to echo Trustee Davis's sentiment. We had hundreds of alumni come back out to work at the shelter. In fact, we had at one point more alumni than we had evacuees. So it was really exciting to see that. I'm also excited that we kicked off our Board of Trustees Employee Recognition Award this month for the year, and we had 22 submissions, and so we're real excited about digging through those and selecting the candidate for the month of September. So we're excited about an opportunity to recognize those employees that go further above and beyond of what their roles and responsibilities require.
I would like to commend Dr. Watson and his staff on keeping us abreast of everything that was going on during the storm. Communications, keeping up Facebook page and Twitter account. It was reassuring to know that our district was being taken care of, and our community did such a wonderful job coming together and just fulfilling all the needs that our families had. So, thank you.
You heard on, good evening, first of all. You heard on the presentation that the teacher mentioned having a great faith in humanity. And one of the things I'm concerned about, not so much at our level, but from a national as well as a state level, is the lack of civility. And in the midst of chaos the last couple of weeks, we saw community civility return. And so I'm excited about that, and moving forward, we still have a lot of needs. We still have a lot of people who need to be mudded out, as we call it. We've got displaced students, staff, and others in the community. So we're on the road to recovery, but I am positive on the direction our community is taking. So.
And I'm very grateful that we are back in school and maintaining a routine for some people who have been devastated and hurt by this weather. And it's wonderful to have our schools supporting the children, the employees, the whole community. So thank you. We will now continue with tonight's agenda. Our next item is the ABCD Award. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chief Communications Officer, Tiffany Dunn Oldfield.
Good evening, President Jensen, Dr. Watson, and members of the board. We actually, to do the introductions, we have 3 special recognitions this evening. 1 ABCD Award and 2 Points of Pride. It's just a reminder for everyone here, our ABCD Awards are board awards to organizations or individuals that go above and beyond the call of duty in their service to the district. And Points of Pride are actually given to individuals or organizations, individuals or departments or schools within the district that receive state and national recognition. So our first award this evening, as you mentioned, is our ABCD Award. I'd like to ask you to come to the horseshoe for the presentation. And for this award, we had a lot of individuals that were fighting to present this award. Lots of individuals fighting to present this award, but our Chief of Police won out, so I'd like to invite up to the podium our Chief of Police, Victor Mitchell.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Deborah Jensen, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Rodney Watson, members of the board. And before I go any further, may I stop and ask Pastor Pitcher to join me at the podium. I'm honored to present to my pastor, Pastor Michael A. Pender of Fallbrook Church, this ABCD Award for all that he has done in support of the Spring Independent School District. Fallbrook's mission is to reach our community for Christ, one home at a time, and change the way people think about church forever. Pastor Pender, affectionately known as Pastor Mike, has opened the doors of Fallbrook Church to the Spring Independent School District to use its facilities to host the district's strategic plan, Every Child 2020, a summer graduation, team building training, and most recently, the Spring Independent School District worked with Fallbrook Church during Hurricane Harvey. Pastor Mike, thank you, the team of deacons and other members of Fallbrook Church who provided support to Dekaney High School by praying with our students in the Fallbrook prayer bus each Monday and Friday morning. We would also like to thank Fallbrook deacons and other members who volunteer their time to mentor students at Dekaney High School 2016-17 school year. We're thankful and grateful to have the partnership with Fallbrook Church. Thank you, Pastor Mike, for your mission, your commitment to Spring. Thank you, sir.
Go around.
Okay. It's just an honor. Fallbrook has always been committed to being a community church, impacting the community. Thank you all. It's very humbling, and look forward to working with this great district for many years to come. God bless.
Next, I'm going to call up our Chief of School Leadership and Student Support Services to present this evening's 2 Points of Pride, Dr. Lupita Hinojosa.
Dr. Jensen, Dr. Watson, and members of the board. So tonight, we, the district, are so very excited to introduce to you two of our district's highest performing schools, Cooper Elementary and Northgate Crossing Elementary. Both schools earned all the possible distinctions applicable to their individual school in the 2017 accountability ratings. As you know, distinctions designations are awarded to campuses based on achievement in performance indicators relative to the group of 40 comparable schools, similar in type, size, and student demographics. Depending on the campus grade level and type, the number of potential distinctions can vary. And in this case, at the elementary level, schools can earn up to 6 distinctions. And of course, they earned them all. So both schools were awarded the distinctions based on achievement in the areas of reading and English language arts, math, science, student progress, closing the performance gap, and post-secondary readiness. So at this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Letty Gonzalez, our principal at Cooper Elementary. Ms. Gonzalez, if you'll join me right So Ms. Gonzalez was hired in 2004 to work with the architects to begin to design and plan and hire the staff for the new Cooper Elementary. Cooper Elementary was opened in 2005, 12 years ago, and she currently has 15 staff members that have been with Ms. Gonzalez and Cooper Elementary since the school opened. So when I asked Ms. Gonzalez what she believes is the secret to have achieved this great statewide recognition, her answer was very simple, and I quote, "It is the attitude that my teachers have towards student success. They believe every student can succeed, and they make it happen." when I asked her what 3 words she would like to share with her faculty about this recognition, again, simply she said, appreciative, honored, and proud. At this time, I'd like to ask the staff members, parents, PTO representatives, community representatives to please stand and be recognized from Cooper Elementary. Congratulations to everyone at Cooper and to the leadership of Ms. Gonzalez.
Cooper's our second home. This is our family, and it's just very exciting to be recognized for your hard work. And our staff works extremely hard. They've got their hearts in the right place. I love my staff, and they love their children, and that makes all the difference in the world. Thank you.
Lupita, go in the photo. Karen, wait for Lupita.
And now I'd like to invite Ms. Christy Brown, our principal at Northgate Crossing Elementary. And so just a little bit about, well, Ms. Brown and her work at Northgate Crossing Elementary. And she has been at Northgate for 5 years. And there's currently 16 staff members that are still there since the school opened. So I asked Ms. Brown the same question. What does she believe is the secret to have achieved this great statewide recognition? And her answer was parent involvement. Engage the parents and you engage the students. A dedicated staff that works tirelessly to do what's best for kids, and motivated scholars that want to achieve. And when I asked her what 3 words she would like to share with her faculty about this recognition, she stated, perseverance. No matter what the constraints are, my staff and students always push through. Tenacity. They are determined to be successful. And heart. At Northgate, we have a heart for kids. So at this time, will the staff members, parents, and PTO representatives please stand and be recognized from Northgate?
Well, thank you for this honor, and I'm honored to be the leader of Northgate Crossing Elementary. I have an amazing faculty. They work tirelessly, day in and day out. I see it. And I appreciate their hard work more than they will ever know. I also have my PTO board here because I really do believe in parent involvement, and I do believe if you engage the parents, you engage the students. And so we've done that at Northgate. I feel like we've been successful with that. And so I appreciate them more than they will ever know. So thank you very much.
We'll have the Northgate Crossing PTO board please come forward. There you go. Get everybody? No, I'm good. That's it. So just our board and our guests, please join me once again in congratulating the staff, principals, and communities of Cooper Elementary and Northgate Crossing Elementary. Congratulations and thank you for your hard work, dedication to our students, and to our community on behalf of Spring ISD and all of the Spring community. Thank you so very much.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to Westfield. We had an amazing preview of The Color Purple this evening, and I'm looking forward to seeing the full play. But I also want to thank our two schools that have exceeded expectations. We're very proud of you. And I also want to share with our PTO parents that most of the board members up here started off as PTO parents. So we continue to welcome your support and involvement.
And let me follow up on that. I mentioned there are two initiatives that I'm interested in this year amongst all the other ones, but civility I've already addressed, and parental involvement. I blame my mother for me being up here. She was a PTO president and very involved in our schools until she went to work, and then I saw the challenges I had as a student when my mother was not as engaged. And we have two college students now, one in law school and one in community college, and my wife and I are just as engaged now as we were when they were in elementary school. So thank you guys for what you do.
That concludes our recognition portion of this
Thank
evening.
Fun part.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn Oldfield. The next order of business is a review of the minutes from previous meetings. Does any trustee have any changes or corrections to the minutes of the September 1st, 2017 emergency meeting?
Yeah. They've been working all day.
I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes from the September 1st, 2017 emergency meeting.
Madam President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the minutes from the September 1st, 2017 emergency meeting as presented by the administration.
Second.
It has been moved by Trustee Gonzalez and seconded by Trustee Durant that we approve the emergency meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Well, I'd like to say something. This was an unusual event to have an emergency meeting by phone. It turns out that Texas law allows for this. And at the time, we were canceling school and needing emergency repairs on a gym that had flooded at Anderson Elementary. And also there were some minor leaks in some buildings, and I understand over 50 leaks at Spring High School. So that we needed emergency help to make sure that those buildings stayed clean, healthy, and ready for students to come back to school. Obviously, that mission was accomplished, and I thank you for your leadership during that time, Dr. Watson. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your right hand. Mr. Davis? Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion carries with 4, and 1 abstaining. Our next item is the 2016 bond program update. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chief Operations Officer, Mark Miranda.
Good evening, Dr. Watson, Dr. Jensen, members of the board. I'm pleased to be here talking about bond updates and really nothing else this time. The really good news about the bond update is that we are still on target. Despite the events of the past few weeks, we still feel that we are on target with all of our timelines and our goals that we had set previously. So we really haven't been set back. That we are, we did get set back just a week or two, but we believe we're on target. And so what you're going to see in this update is really brief. The major milestone that we're going to see later today is the CM at Risk RFP recommendations. So just to give you a little bit of an update on some of the targets that we're still in line for that aren't in this presentation, but I wanted to give you a quick update on technology, for example. We are in the process and on target with having new Chromebook carts out at the schools by the end of October. Those will be 182 Chrome carts, and which have 32 Chromebooks per cart, so we're really excited about that. Also, by the end of October, we will have new teacher laptops, about 2,350 of those laptops will be out for teachers by the end of October. So those are really positive things that we have to look forward to here over the next few weeks. From a schedule update, obviously we're aligned bond program-wise with Every Child 2020. And I wanted to show you the biggest milestone that we're approaching right now that really today is a milestone day. Which is in alignment with our previous timelines, is the construction manager at risk proposals. As you recall, we have hired architects. We've begun design on the majority of our projects. And now we're going to be hiring construction manager at risk contractors to be able to work side by side with those architects in the design, evaluation, constructability, and in the estimating for all of these projects. We released that RFP in June, advertised it as required for 2 weeks, and then today, board approval, September 14th, is what we're looking for, and you'll see that on our agenda a little bit later on. Just to kind of give you a reminder of what you're going to be seeing here in a little while, is that our construction manager at risk proposals were sent out in a package A, B, C, and D. Package A was the Spring High School 9th grade center along with the district-wide stadium. Package B was the Robertson Middle School replacement, and then also the remodel of Robertson Middle School into the Westfield High School 9th grade center. You'll notice in those two packages that they were combined packages because there are contingencies between the two. We didn't want to have two different firms working on projects that were dependent on one another for completion. The stadium has to be built so that we can have the room for the 9th grade academy or the 9th grade center at Spring High School, and the same for Robertson. So package C is middle school number 8. That's the Northgate Elementary area middle school. And then package D is the new police headquarters, smaller package. That's for the renovation of the Lock Haven facility that we purchased for that headquarters. The evaluation process was a 2-step evaluation process for that CM at risk. The first step was a qualifications ranking. And so we took all of the proposals and they were ranked by references, business strength, the proposed team, experience and capacity, project management, safety record, and then experience with Spring ISD and its agents. Those weighted criteria were 100 points. We then took the highest ranked offers that had scores of 80% or above on the evaluations, and we asked them to submit price bids. And so they submitted price bids, which we're bringing forward to you today. And the district ranked those price bids based on overall cost to the district, from lowest overall cost to the highest overall cost. The overall costs include general condition fees, construction service fees, and pre-construction service fees. That one is a not to exceed cost. So those will be presented today, September 14th, 2017. That was our original target, and I'm really pleased to be able to say that we're going to beat that target. That concludes my brief update for the bond program. Be happy to entertain any questions.
I do. I don't know if we can entertain them now or not.
Sure.
We've got 4 proposals. It looks like 3 of the 4 looks like the same firm.
That's right.
One of my questions was that firm that's doing proposal A, I didn't see where they have any experience working with stadiums of the magnitude that we're going to work with.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe high school stadiums, middle school stadiums, but that's, I don't know if that was an issue. That
Yeah,
came
all
up.
of the above were factors, including the scope of the projects that they had.
Scope is what I'm
So,
talking about.
Yeah, right.
And then specific experience with a,
Specific experience with the stadium. Yeah. I'd have to double check that to see, but I guess if you say, yeah,
yeah, I didn't
they
see.
may not have had,
I didn't see that out there.
right.
I'm sure you've gone over this,
We have.
but can you just give me some timeline, approximate timeline, where we are with the project
Just overall
today
projects.
overall, yeah. And I'm not holding you to any dates. I just kinda
Sure,
wanna-
just to give you an idea,
Yeah.
we have done the RFP for the CM at risks. We've actually begun at the beginning of September on the documents. The architect has begun design for all of the different projects. We've begun design for Robertson's new school. And started looking into some of the designs for the others, Lock Haven, for example. Those began in September. By November of 2017, we'll be bidding out packages for the stadium, for the fields in terms of for the guaranteed maximum price. We'll be looking at those. And we'll actually be coming to you either by the end of the calendar year or probably the early part of the spring, January, February timeline with guaranteed maximum proposals for most of these projects. And you'll actually start to see site packages going out first. So the earliest thing that we'll be doing with the CM at Risk and the architects is they'll be designing site packages so that the CM at Risk can begin clearing the site and preparing the sites for construction in the early part, hopefully in the spring. We'll be able to get that done, and then we'll be coming to you in the later part of the spring with the final GMP for those packages, and construction will begin then. We've had several meetings with at the academics team to look at specifically for the Roberson replacement ninth grade, because that replacement ninth grade is going to be a little more unique than the middle school number 8, which will be in the north. We have some visits planned to be able to go to a couple of different sites. Thankfully, those sites are still intact and weren't impacted by the storm, and we're going to be able to visit those sites to see what they have that are very similar to some of the things that we're going to be building here, and we're excited to see that. We also have a couple of stadium visits to do, and we're excited to see those. Those are not the over-the-top stadiums, but really a stadium site that'll be beneficial and fit what we're looking for in spring.
Correct. I just want to kind of get I know we often do groundbreaking ceremonies, so make sure you give us plenty of time on our calendars.
Oh, yeah.
So we're actually looking towards middle of next year before that.
Yes.
I know the company that we selected, at least to this point, they're pretty involved in the area. My concern is, do they have the capacity to
Yeah, one of the things
do
that
this?
Yes, sir. One of the things that we look at is their bonding capacity. Their bonding capacity is an indication of their overall strength in terms of financial ability to be able to
I don't
meet.
mean that. I mean, they're working in Cy-Fair, they're in Houston, they're in Klein. That's what I'm talking about. Are they too spread out?
You're also talking about their personnel strength, right?
Yes.
Their bench strength, whether they have enough
Yeah.
personnel to be able
Yeah,
to
I
do
know they're a
this.
big company.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we looked at. One of the criteria is the team. The team presented to us in the RFP is the team that will be coming on board with us, and so we do think they have the capacity from a team standpoint to be able to handle our projects as well. A lot of the projects that they are working on that you're familiar with, the Klein project, for example, that recently completed, those projects are actually completing and on the back end of their lifespan, and so they're actually going to have some teams freed up from some of the projects like the large Klein project.
And finally, do we do due diligence regarding litigation they've had, lawsuits, specifically with districts?
That was actually one of the criteria as well that we looked at when we're looking at the business strength. We go back and we have conversations with them on any litigations that they have. That is one of the criteria that we looked at for all of the firms.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. I know this has been a lot of work, and there's going to be a lot more work, isn't there?
Just getting started.
For our next items, I would like to recognize our Chief Financial Officer, Ann Westbrooks.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen. And just continuing on with the discussion that Mr. Miranda just ended regarding the bond packages, we do have each of the 4 packages for you all to approve tonight. And the first one is Package A, which is the Spring High School 9th grade center and the district-wide stadium, with an estimated construction cost of $60 million for both projects. And based upon the process that Mr. Miranda just went through regarding Step 1, where all of the vendors who responded to the RFP were given the opportunity to be assessed and evaluated based on the criteria listed. And then those top 4 firms that had a score of 80% or higher moved on to Step 2, where pricing came into play. And so based upon the results of the Step 2 portion of that project, we have the recommended vendor for you all. And if the board does not have any more questions, then we're asking for a vote to,
I just wanted to, this is the Project A, correct?
this is Project A, yes.
I did want to follow up on Mr. Bell's question. I did get clarification from my executive director of construction, that this firm has completed 4 different stadiums. They have completed 3 stadiums in North Texas, 1 in South Texas, and 1 in another state. So
Can I get the
they
list,
do have
please?
some experience. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Good.
just follow up with the list. Thank you.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, Dr. Jensen and members of the board, if there are no further questions, then we are asking for the board's approval to move forward with the construction manager recommended.
I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk, CMAR firm, for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP number 18-001-CMAR Package A, Spring High School 9th Grade Center and District-Wide Stadium, as presented by the administration.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP 18-001, the CMAR package. A, Spring High School, 9th Grade Center, and our district-wide stadium, as it has been presented by the administration.
Second.
It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Jana Gonzalez that we approve the motion that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk, CMAR firm, for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP 18001 CMAR Package A, Spring High School 9th Grade Center and District-Wide Stadium, as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion?
I have a dumb question. What's CMAR?
Construction manager at risk.
Thank you.
Right. Would all those in favor please raise your right hand? Would all those opposed please raise your right hand? Those abstaining, please raise your right hand. The motion carries 4, and 1 abstaining. Ms. Westbrook, would you please continue with your next item?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And going on to package B, which is the Robertson Middle School replacement campus and the remodel of the current Robertson Middle School campus into the Westville High School 9th Grade Center. The estimated construction cost for those 2 projects is $33 million. And again, we're asking the board for your approval to move forward with the recommended construction company.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrook. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk, CMAR firm, for the project and fees listed in the attachment RFP 18-002-CMAR Package B, Roberson Middle School replacement campus and remodel of Roberson Middle School into Westfield High School 9th Grade Center, as presented by the administration.
Madam President, I move the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP 18-002 CMAR Package B, Roberson Middle School replacement campus and remodel of Roberson Middle School into Westfield High School 9th Grade Center, as presented by the administration.
Second.
It has been moved by Jana Gonzalez and seconded by Donald Davis that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk, CMAR firm, for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP 18-002 CMAR Package B, Roberson Middle School replacement campus and remodel of Roberson Middle School into Westfield High School 9th Grade Center, as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, would you please raise your right hand? All those against? Abstaining? We have 4 votes for and 1 abstaining. The motion carries. Ms. Westbrooks, would please continue with the next item?
Yes, ma'am. And package C is for the construction of middle school number 8 and has an estimated construction cost of $25 million. And we're asking for the board's approval to move forward with the recommended vendor for package C.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk CMAR firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP number 18-003, CMAR Package C, Middle School number 8, as presented by the administration.
Madam President, I move the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP 18-003 CMAR Package C, Middle School number 8, as presented by the administration.
I have a second. Thank you. It has been moved by Jana Gonzalez and seconded by Justine Durant that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk CMAR firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP number 18-003 CMAR Package C, Middle School number 8, as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion? Okay, all right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Any abstaining? We have 4 votes for and 1 abstaining, so the motion carries. Ms. Westbrooks, would you please continue with your next item?
Yes, ma'am. And the final package D, which is the renovation of the newly acquired building into the new police headquarters, has an estimated construction cost of $1.8 million, and we're asking the board for your approval of the recommended vendor.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk CMAR firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP number 18-004 CMAR Package D, new police headquarters, as presented by the administration.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP number 18-004 CMAR Package D, new police headquarters, as presented by the administration.
Do I have-
Second it.
Thank you. It has been moved by Chris Bell and seconded by Justine Durant that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent of schools or a designee to negotiate, execute, and amend contracts with the construction manager at risk CMAR firm for the project and fees listed in the attachment for RFP number 18-004 CMAR Package D, new police headquarters, as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion? Well, I'd like to mention that this is a great deal cheaper than the other projects. And sometimes when I am talking to school board members in other districts, and I'm hearing about their construction costs and that sort of thing, and I tell them about Dr. Watson finding buildings in the Spring community that can be bought at a fraction of the price and renovated. Now, we can't do that for big schools, can't do it for a stadium, but just wonderful that we are going to have a wonderful facility for our wonderful police force. That's my discussion. All those in favor of this, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks.
Thank you.
Mr. Miranda. Our next item is the Strategic Compensation Charter. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chief Human Resources Officer, Dion McKeithen.
Good evening, President Jensen, Dr. Watson, of the members of the board. Really excited to provide you an update of the Strategic Compensation Charter. And so I'd like to recognize Dr. Laquita Carter, who has our Assistant Superintendent of Performance Management, who has led this particular initiative. And so want to give her an opportunity to really dive into some details relative to where we are and what our next steps look like.
Good evening, Dr. Watson, members of the board, and cabinet. Privileged to be here and honored to come back again 8 months later to share some of the work that we've had an opportunity to do. Before I jump into the presentation, I do want to acknowledge there are several members on the committee that's here tonight that have participated with our work. And so I would like to ask if you've had anything to do with our strategic compensation work that you please stand at this moment. Our principals and our teachers are fully committed to everything that we do in the district, as you know, and so to have them on the team, to have their voice, to have their input as stakeholders early has been key to our work, and so I appreciate each and every one of them. We've had an opportunity to have 29 meetings thus far with our strategic compensation design and planning team, with many of the voices represented here from our cabinet, as well as those that you saw standing. Our work has been focused on two imperatives: excellence in every school and high performance from every employee. When we think about the goals that have been set forth in Every Child 2020 and now our District of Innovation plan, we must plan for excellence. We must plan for innovation as well as acceleration while strengthening, building, and rewarding our employees for excellence, performance, and going above and beyond. As we have served as thought partners throughout this process thus far, we've looked at our current district priorities, the current state that we are in, and the ability to sustain ourselves through a position in order to get us to the next level. Having a laser focus on our teaching force. Tonight I'm going to give you an overview of some of the goals that we've been able to work through as we look at how we will model this out for our schools in 2018-2019. We had 4 goals that we focused on through the charter: developing and acknowledging the growth of our staff. We are committed to providing aligned and high-quality professional development to meet our teachers where they are in order to grow and build their capacity. We're committed to looking at motivating top performance and employee engagement, and so truly being able to honor our employees for the work that they're doing. As you saw, 2 of our schools being highlighted today, and it just warmed my heart because all I could think about was, well, down the line, what will this look like for the schools that will have an opportunity to celebrate? And so taking advantage of those top elite performers that are performing in our district every single day and highlighting the work that they're doing, and then not just highlighting it, but replicating it so that we can see it filtered throughout the entire district. And then recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers. One huge focus that we have here is to make sure that as a part of all of our efforts that we are looking from a recruitment standpoint, but then also retaining the employees that we have. We don't just want to bring employees to the district based on a strategic compensation initiative that will entice them to want to be a part of our district, but then when we get them here, we want to keep them for the sustainability of knowing that they're adding value, the impact, and that they're also being supported as lifelong learners. All of these 3 goals feed directly into improving our student achievement. That is the premise for all of the work of the Strategic Compensation Charter. It is to make sure that we change the outcomes and the landscape of all of our students in spring, and to provide equity across the board so that all of our students are growing and developing. These 2 priorities here have a high focus on teacher-focused priorities. This was a huge piece of the work that we've been going back and forth with for the last 8 months to make sure that we're looking at our teacher population. As we all know, our teachers are our most important person in the classroom, and they're able to shift and accelerate our students. And so we want to make sure that we have the highest performing teachers in front of our children, and that we're able to reward and celebrate them by keeping them as they continue to improve our student achievement year over year. Some key components that you'll see embedded throughout two of the models that I'll show with you here momentarily are looking at rewarding excellent teacher attendance, rewarding teachers at high-need campuses that are supporting our schools, rewarding teachers that work in critical shortage areas that have been identified by TEA, rewarding campus teachers that are meeting index targets as well as our state achievement. We wanted to look at progress and achievement as well so that we could focus on moving our schools and celebrating schools that are already hitting the mark of high performance. So where are we today and where are we headed? That's our big question. Today we have roughly over 2,215 teachers in our district, with the starting salary for our teachers at about $52,275. Very competitive for our district across the board. We have 38 campuses, and looking at the median salary for our teachers, we currently are serving $57,867 as a rough estimate for median salary for all. Some of the stipends that we currently offer for some of our hard-to-staff roles in our schools are bilingual stipend, language for LOAT, and then high school math and science. And so we're also making sure that we look at the stipends that are being offered across the board and how do they fit with the long-term goals that we have down the line for rewarding our teachers, but also looking at what the needs of our students as well. Our current state versus our future state. At the top of the chart, you'll see that we have, this is our standard playing field for how our teachers are compensated. Your teacher salary, they get paid by their years of experience. They have the same rewards across the board. They're giving a base salary, and then based on some of the stipends that are available currently, they may receive a stipend, but those are not currently guaranteed. The future state of where we're headed as we look at differentiated rewards for all are looking at our teachers that come in. As they come in to be hired and onboarded, then we take into consideration the years of experience that they do have, because we do want to honor and validate what they're bringing to the table currently. Looking at that base salary, and then also we want to explore some expanded stipend and career pathways. And so with those career pathways, those would be opportunities for current teachers that might want to serve in teacher leadership roles. Maybe they don't want to leave the classroom, but they do want to have additional responsibilities. And so expanding career pathways that we may have to keep many of our high-performing teachers in the classroom while also leveraging the leadership that they have to be able to support others. Dr. Watson mentioned briefly our Everyday Counts attendance incentive. That would also be a portion of the package that we're looking at. Some of the work that has surfaced throughout our entire time has really been a consistent push on attendance, both for students and staff alike. And so knowing that attendance counts every day and attendance truly does matter, those were one of the pieces that we identified as low-hanging fruit for some of our strategic compensation work this year that we could leverage in being able to motivate teachers to come, because again, if the teachers are there, they're delivering first taught high quality instruction, then we're expecting that our outcomes will continue to improve for student achievement. And then finally, adding on spring rewards, investing in high performance, which would be the annual reward program that would potentially launch in 2018-2019. And that particular program would be encompassed with looking at attendance for our staff, looking at hard staff campuses and content areas so that we could make sure, again, that we're meeting the goals that we have as a district, focusing on campus achievement as well as individual achievement. One commitment that our design team and planning team has had consistently is we want to make sure that we're providing opportunity to all. And so all of our teachers do have an opportunity to take advantage of the rewards that would be provided. Again, this is just our model for Everyday Counts, and we will hear more about this when Dr. Hinojosa shares some of our detail. And so digging right into spring rewards, investing in high performance. So exciting to see that up there. This is the meat of our model, and really looking at pay for performance. As we have researched the last 8 months, what are some strong models that are available in other districts and how they're actually leveraging what they're doing in their district to increase student outcomes. And then also looking at how, again, are we attracting and retaining high-quality staff that will be able to help us to meet these goals. There was one poll that I found that shared that only 24% of superintendents across the country really have the autonomy to look at flexible differentiated pay. And so once again, we have an opportunity in spring to continue to be cutting edge and look at ways to help shape the educational landscape. Our proposed framework, you'll see that we have 2 models that we'll share that have 3 possible scenarios with a maximum individual bonus that could range from $2,000 to $4,000, depending upon what the selected model would be. Both models measure student achievement and growth, both individually and at the campus, as assessed by the State Accountability System. Our team was looking again at trying to stay cutting edge, and so looking at the growth and retention of the teachers. As we know, for our teaching force, by 2025, we will have predominantly newer teachers, and some things that the newer teachers are saying are they like the merit pay, they like rewards and incentives, and so as we are looking down the line, trying to make sure that we stay in alignment with what the trends are as well as we project out. So these are the 2 models that we have for the 2018-19 school year that we would look towards rolling out. For the 2017-2018 school year that we're currently in, what the goal would be is to actually run this as an undercurrent to see what does the model look like. In researching and discussing with many teams, some things that we found out is the implementation definitely is key. And so we know that the best made plans have to be implemented strategically. And so looking at what does this look like if it were actually happening. And so I'll share with you some timeline pieces once we finish on how we would actually run the models to see what they're actually projecting for our schools. So in Model 1, to your left, where you see the green area, you see 4 or few absences. This is a starting point. So if we were looking at this model as something that we would potentially run in our district, the teacher would have to have 4 or few absences in order to be considered for possible reward. Again, going back to our attendance priority, we do want to make sure that we're keeping attendance as a priority because we know if our teachers are there, then they'll be able to impact student achievement. In addition to the fact that we took a survey in the early spring and attendance was a top contender that came upon staff or peer-to-peer that wants to motivate our teachers to come to work. Then there would be 4 criteria that the teachers would be able to qualify for in terms of possibly receiving a bonus: working at a high needs campus, working in a critical shortage area, meeting Index 1 and Index 2, or meeting individual Index 2 as well. So again, this gives an opportunity for campus reward, an individual reward, and also looking at the current priorities that we have in the district for improving academic achievement and looking at some of the areas that we know we need to staff. So looking at student achievement, looking at student progress would be the 2 factors that would be taken upon for Model 1. Looking at Model 2, you'll notice that it is the same with the exception of criteria 3, in which we would look at Index 1 through 4 and take all of those indices into consideration in order to reward a bonus to those particular teachers. At the bottom, you'll see number of staff who met criteria, and so what our team has done is actually look at the data from last year to say, well, if we were actually running this model, what would it look like? How many of our teachers would have qualified? And so under Model 1, we would have had 519 teachers that could have potentially received a reward. We would have had 434 teachers in a critical shortage area that could have potentially received an award. 702 teachers that met Index 1 and 2, no current teachers for meeting 1 through 4, and then 62 teachers that individually met 62 to for the student progress. Model 2, the same numbers for high needs campus and critical shortage area. In this model, you don't have any teachers that would qualify for meeting index 1 and 2. But for 1 through 4, you have 694 that could potentially receive it. And then again, meeting the progress measure for index 2, you have 62 teachers. Model 1 totaling 1,717 teachers, and Model 2 totaling 1,709 teachers. Not a statistically significant difference in terms of the numbers, but it gives you an idea of what that would possibly look like for Model 1 and Model 2 from the previous year. And this just goes over again the indices that would be counted for index 1 through 4. And then a cost analysis. So what we also wanted to look at, and you have this as a handout in your packet, is what would this cost? Because again, the team has been very focused and consistent on making sure that anything that we put forth or any ideas that we want to move forward with, that it is something that is sustainable. And so as we were running the models, we said, okay, well, let's actually run the figures to see what this would cost in terms of projecting that out. And so you'll see each of those 3 opportunities for a max of 2,000, a max of 3,000, and qualifying for a max of 4,000. Within each of those cost analysis, you see again the band of blue and green. Both of those would either be Model 1 or Model 2, not both of those figures. So you see anywhere from 805,000 all the way up to 1,500,000 as a cost for what those models look like. Some considerations that we began discussing and talking about after we modeled out what would it look like if we had run the models. The performance requirements outlined in each model are attainable, but definitely challenging. So there's some opportunity for some stretch goals. More than 50% of teachers will qualify for some form of a bonus. The maximum bonus amounts are approximately 3.5%, 5.5%, and 7% of total teacher salary. So looking at the different cost figures that they could potentially receive, these numbers could possibly give them anywhere from a 3.5% to a 7% raise for that fee. As outlined, both models are sustainable even without grant funding. So those were some considerations that we wanted to make sure that we were thinking about as well as we were looking at what strategic compensation would look like.
What do you mean with our grant money?
I'm sorry?
That last statement just kind of.
We wanted to make sure that it would be sustainable if we didn't have any grant dollars in the district to fund it. And so looking at many districts, some of the considerations that they had were they could sustain it by receiving grants, but if they didn't have the grants, their respective school district budgets could handle supporting what the figures were. And so we wanted to make sure that ours were sustainable without grant funding, if needed.
That's a concern of mine because one time in my life I was in HISD, and back in 2000, around that time frame, they had a LAC plan, and it didn't last very long. It went away because the funding was not available in future years. But the first couple of years, everybody got a part. Everybody that qualified, got a part that was available. It didn't last very long. Our main concern is what we do, what approach we take, make sure that we can maintain it and have some sustainability.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues that we think of. Having worked in that model and led that model, that was a model that was very costly, and the model came about with the use of TIF funds. So it started out with a grant. So when the grant goes out, then that went away. We're not starting out with the grant. We're looking at the amount of money that we normally give out anyway. If this was something that the board wanted to do, as you all charged us to look at this, it would be something that we would go ahead and put in the budget up front versus not having it in and figuring out what we're going to do every year.
That was one of the main things that we talked about in the meetings, is that it had to be sustainable. Couldn't be something that we were depending upon other funding to support. We're going to do it. We want to make sure it's something that we can maintain with our existing funds.
Do that by remaining very focused on who we were trying to target developing the model, and the only way to keep it affordable and sustainable was continuing to keep it very focused on the lift that we were attempting to achieve from the model.
Could you go back a slide again? Right. What I've always been concerned about whenever we're doing pay for performance is that you have to rely on subjects that are tested to measure that. And you could have, and I have seen art and music teachers obviously in areas that are not tested, and yet they have so much work. And there's measurable student outcomes with awards that groups and individual students get. And also, I have seen art and music teachers work very actively with the content areas. But it looks like you've got two models here where one is like school-wide success versus individual success. That's always a hard decision to me. And I know you all are looking very closely at that.
Yes, and those pieces have definitely come up as consideration, which is why there was a focus on making sure that the campus will still be able to yield some reward. So even if you weren't in that tested grade, you still would be able to take advantage if your campus met. But those are some priorities that we have. And looking at some of the funding, we definitely had to start with our classroom teachers and have a teacher-focused priority and not be able to address everyone at the onset, but those are some features that we definitely have to take to make sure that everyone is involved.
And that being said, I've been in science departments where everybody was working so hard, except one or two other individuals who I won't go into what they didn't do. And I don't know that we felt like it was so unfair that they were getting the same salary we were. We just tried to say goodbye to them,
I think you're absolutely right, Dr. Jensen. One of the things that we also talked about when you're looking at stipends, if we go back to that one list that you had us to start looking at regarding stipends, some of our art and music teachers already receive stipends. So when you go back to the slide of differentiated pay and what we're currently do, some of those individuals are already getting extra stipends for the extra work in addition to their base salary. So what we're trying to do is to reward more people like some of them are already getting.
I think she has a good point when you look at the other disciplines. So are we also going to merge in any of the evaluations that we do? We mentioned campus level. I know we do a lot of evaluations. People get, tests come and go at the state level. These assessments. But what about some of the assessments that we might be doing locally on literacy and those types of things? Are we going to look at those as well and merge those in potentially?
Yes, that is the plan. Long term, there will be several iterations of this, and so as we're working through looking at in-house the assessments that we have and making sure that everything is valid and reliable, and in order for us to measure and assess, that is something that we consider.
That's something that when you said that, I almost made me have a flashback. That's something that's very good, but can be very difficult because depending upon the test and how many different tests you use, it gets more complex. And there's more questions asked to the reliability, as Dr. Carter stated, in terms of the reliability of those assessments. One of the other points I wanted to make was, when we're looking at the test results, or we're looking at the criteria that she had listed there regarding the index scores, and we're looking at student achievement, it is different teaching a non-tested grade than a grade. Teachers work hard in all grades, but there are some individuals that would prefer not to be in tested grades, and there are individuals that work harder in tested grades depending upon the school. If it's a hard-to-teach school, sometimes teachers will not want to work in those grade levels because of the extra accountability that comes along with the state tests. And so as we recruit teachers, not all, but there are some teachers that prefer to be in grades pre-K through 2 or other non-tested secondary classes. And so we want to make sure that it's not necessarily equal in terms of the accountability of that as well. When you have schools like Northgate and Cooper, and we win as a team and we're all working together, then we have seen individual schools that are able to pull that off because everyone is working together for the common vision.
So some of the next steps that I have in terms of the models. We'd like to be able to have a calculator that if I were a teacher and I wanted to know would I qualify for anything, I could go to the website and input some figures and be able to determine what my bonus would be. And so we're looking to finalize a model and have one actively running on our site to develop internal communications in order to generate the awareness throughout the district, to continue to promote the attendance incentive, because again, that's one of our first key levers, is promoting strong positive attendance for our teachers to be there. Also looking at the dashboard to allow teacher tracking. We want teachers to be able to go in and feel comfortable and that the process is transparent, and continue to gather our group for buy-in regarding our stakeholders. It's very important at the onset to be able to meet with our focus groups, to do surveys, because one thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is getting as many voices as we can so that we've considered as many perspectives as possible as we move through the process. This is just a recap of some of the work that we started with in January when we first came to meet, and some of the activities that have taken place with regards to our meeting, kickoffs, and then today presenting the models. And then for our internal communications plan, this is where we will begin to go deeper in terms of informing staff and employees of what this will look like, creating an Elevate tab, because again, I would like to have as much two-way communication as possible in order to hear from all of the staff, sending staff information so that our employees are aware, having that personal touch where if I feel the need to go to campuses, to be available for faculty meetings and or fielding some of those questions so that there's no apprehension from employees, and then creating continuous frequently asked questions as we continue to receive them so that we can ensure that we're covering everything while developing a web page that will continue to work that information out for our team. So that leads us to looking at what it is that we can actually do to support our staff and continue to grow, as well as rewarding and celebrating excellent employees within our district. Are there any other questions?
I just had a comment. I just wanted to say this was a lot of hard work, and it's some tough decisions to try to make. But as we know, what we're facing in our community is a shortage of teachers. They're projecting, I think, Mr. Keaton can tell me, in 5 years, a huge shortage in the Harris County metropolitan area. We want to make sure that we're offering and incentivizing teachers so that we differentiate ourselves in a lot of ways from our neighbors, so that we can retain and keep the best and the brightest. And I really think that this is the first step in that direction. So I want to thank you and the committee for all your hard work, and and I also like the fact that we're modeling it. We're not just rolling it out. We're actually going to model it, see how it would work, before we actually, and then continue to gather feedback.
Yes.
And pilot it through this year so that we make sure that the decisions that we do make in the end are sustainable.
I think we do want it to be, Captain Davis mentioned sustainable.
Yes.
And then we've seen what stability can do to the outcomes that we see at schools with 15 and 16 long-term good teachers, quality teachers. What the results can be
Yes.
from the stability, and that's really important.
Thank you very much.
The only other comment that I had is she mentioned the attendance incentive, and you'll remember last month when Dr. Hinojosa talked about the attendance. I just want to make sure. Do I have any other questions regarding that?
I did. Was there something else you wanted to kind of highlight
you
again?
You want to highlight it again, just one brief time?
Sure. As you'll remember, the board asked us to make it a priority last year in the spring that we focus on attendance, and we were able to earmark a little bit of funds, right, to move this attendance incentive or attendance plan forward for this coming school year. The attendance plan has a dual focus. If you'll recall, when I presented, we were focusing on students as well as on our teachers and then the systems the piece that plugs in really well with the strategic compensation is the incentive for our classroom teachers to be at school every day. And so I think it was just one of the last bullets in there, but what we have earmarked some funds is for each semester. And of course, we're looking at a bridge calendar for this fall semester due to the 2 weeks that we've been out. So we're looking at some dates potentially starting in October. But for our teachers that for the fall semester have 2 or less absences, having a drawing at every elementary campus, there would be one winner of $1,500. At every middle school, we'd have 2 winners of $1,500. High school, 3 winners. And then at our smaller campuses, at early college, it's 400 students, smaller campus, 1 winner. And then at Winchie, we would have 2. And that would be in the fall semester for teachers that have 2 or less absences, and in the spring semester. And then we would look at the end of the year for all the teachers district-wide that had no absences. They would be put in a pot for a drawing, and as you can see, our proposal is for 5 awards of $3,000. And so
can I
we're
start teaching again?
yes, absolutely, especially in your area of expertise. We'll take you. We will take you. But so we're focusing on the students and what needs to happen. But as Dr. Carter said, the big difference is having our teachers there every day. Our students come because of the teachers. Our students learn because of the teachers. So we wanted to be able to take the funds that were earmarked and really focus on our teachers and reward them, give them the opportunity to be recognized.
And top 2 of our key focus this year, our goal is around attendance and literacy.
Yes.
So those are the 2 things that we're focusing on this year as my colleagues and I as a board. And attendance, like you said, it's twofold. It's students and it's teachers. And that's where learning happens, in the classroom between that child and that teacher.
Just 2 caveats. You don't want a teacher coming to school like Typhoid Mary and infecting everybody. Or, sometimes you want people to stay home and keep their germs to themselves. The other thing is, I assume that if a teacher is going to a conference or something like that, that is not counted as
those
an
are not
absence.
counted again.
Yeah, these are all
Those are
unexcused absences, not those that you would typically allow off.
That's great.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Dr.
Thank
Carter. The
you.
wonderful process.
Thank you.
Great.
Just
Excellent job.
really appreciate
Thank
the
you.
expertise there. Yes.
It's all around this room, Dr.
Thank you, guys.
Is that it, Mr. McKeithen?
That is it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For our next items, I would like to recognize our Chief of Staff, Julie Hill.
Good evening, Dr. Jensen, Dr. Watson, and trustees. I have just 2 items to bring to you this evening. They're both resolutions. The first resolution is an adoption of a resolution to pay our police officers for the work they've missed as a result of district closure, as well as to pay those that were able to come out and to help keep our district safe and secure. As you recall, at our emergency meeting on September 1st, we actually passed a resolution in order to make sure that we were able to continue to retain teachers and employees that we needed to keep here in the district for our efficient and effective operations. And we don't want to be remiss in not making sure that we have the same opportunity afforded to our police officers. If you recall, by policy, they were excluded from the opportunity of being compensated for coming out. And so, of course, we often, I think, verbally give our appreciation to our first responders, but we should also want to provide them the same type of monetary appreciation that other employees in the district received who came out during that very difficult and trying time that we had during Hurricane Harvey and its aftermath. And so we come before you this evening asking the administration to allow us to do so, to compensate the police officers as well for the time that they worked. Of course, they would receive, like all employees, for the time that the district was closed, but we want them to also, for those who risked left their families behind, and their homes to be compensated for that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees adopt the resolution to pay district police officers for workdays missed as a result of Spring Independent School District's closure due to Hurricane Harvey.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt a resolution to pay district police officers for workdays missed as a result of Spring Independent School District closure due to Hurricane Harvey.
All right, it's been moved by Donald Davis and seconded by Chris Bell that we adopt the resolution to pay district police officers for workdays missed as a result of Spring Independent School District's closure due to Hurricane Harvey. Is there any discussion? Just how much we appreciate that when the rest of us were stranded, my husband and I were calling ourselves the Islanders. There was no way out, and I'm just from talking to other people, they were in the same situation. But our first responders were out there, and really appreciate you being there when we need you.
And just as an added thing, we had the meeting the other night through the Chamber of Commerce, and all of our law enforcement agencies were highlighted and thanked for the service, the mutual aid that they provide to each other. And so that's a good thing that all of them working together, and I think it was pointed out how good they are working together. So that's really a good thing.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Ms. Hill, would you go with your next item?
Yes. So the second resolution is one that, in effect, is also related to the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. It's a resolution waiving a provision in Board Policy FD Local that requires a notarized statement relating to a family living with another family. So as everyone is aware, we do have families that have been displaced, who have lost what their normal dwelling is. And in some cases, families are doubling up or tripling up even in a particular residence. A part of FD Local that we currently have in place in the district requires a notarized statement when a family says that they're living with another family, that the family that they're living with give a notarized statement. We are asking for this 2017-18 school year for the district to waive that requirement in order for us to ensure that families who are having those type of situations in front of them are able to register for school without having to give us those statements, which might jeopardize, in fact, where they are living. We don't want them to have issues with landlords or anyone else, especially when people are extending to each other the type of civility that Trustee Bell was talking about, where we reach out a hand to help people who need somewhere to stay and shelter. And so we want to make sure that that is made easy, particularly for our families who may fall underneath any of the qualifications for homeless families at this time. So we want to make sure those that are in the homeless situation, as well as those who may be offering homes, are not having any hardship because of Hurricane Harvey and its aftermath.
The way the motion is been provided to the board, it doesn't specify the 2017-2018 school year.
So what the motion is just identifying the resolution that's being adopted, and if you look at the resolution, the resolution itself has a lot more detail.
Okay.
The limitations there.
I just want to make sure we weren't negating this policy forever.
If you look on page 28, it's in the resolution piece right at the bottom there, that it says it's for the completion of the 2017-18 school year. And in fact, Dr. Jensen, we would like to ask if Trustee Durant and the other members of the Board Governance Committee would work with us for the remainder of this year to look at this policy again, and then to know what we would like to do moving forward.
We can definitely put it on the agenda for the Steering Governance Committee, our next,
right,
which is the fourth Thursday of every month.
Are you done, Ms. Hill?
I am. Thank you very much.
I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees adopt the resolution waiving the provision in Board Policy FD Local that requires a notarized statement relating to a family living with another family.
So I move that the Board of Trustees adopt a resolution waiving the provision in Board Policy FD Local that requires a notarized statement relating to a family living with another family.
Do I have a second? It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Jana Gonzalez that the Board of Trustees adopt the resolution waiving the provision in Board Policy FD Local that requires a notarized statement relating to a family living with another family. Is there any discussion?
I just want to commend our administration for recognizing not adding that additional burden and hardship to a family that's already been extended courtesy, not to have to ask them again for a notarized statement. I want to thank you for that.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Our next item is the public hearing for the 2017-2018 Campus Improvement Plans. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chief of School Leadership and Student Support Services, Lupita Hinojos.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen, Dr. Watson, members of the board. We are back for our annual meeting with you and annual public hearing on our campus improvement plans. And I see that you have your binders with you. So we're excited to have the opportunity. And so tonight it's our time to share with you a little bit about the process that we've gone through to develop our campus improvement plans for the 2017-2018 school year. And just a really quick reminder for us here, but it is something that guides our principals and our campuses every day. The work that we do is clearly centered in our strategic plan, Every Child 2020. In the work that you see before you in the campus improvement plans, we are actually addressing all components of our strategic plan. But the actual work that we've done is focusing around reaching every student, which is really focusing on that student achievement, excellence in every school, and our high performance from every employee is where we're looking at, through the development of this plan, ensuring that we have systems and structures in place at our campuses to ensure student performance and ultimately to ensure that we have also our employees' performance, our teachers and our principals. Just a quick reminder for us is that our campus improvement plans are a state requirement. It is part of our Texas Education Code as well as our local board policy. It's required for all of our schools. The campus improvement plans are led by the principal and our campus advisory committee. The work of the campus improvement plan is specifically designed to support our district's strategic plan. It has performance objectives for every state-adopted academic excellence indicator, and most importantly, and I hope you had the opportunity to really look at the performance measures that we've laid out, not only for all the subjects and very clearly articulated goals around parent and community engagement, but also focusing on our special populations. And finally, because as you know, it is required not only state law, local, but also our federal government, it is completely aligned to the Title I school-wide components. And so tonight, we have all of our principals here tonight. I'd like to recognize them. They've been here all night,
I know.
representing their campuses and their leadership team. But I know, and the cabinet warned me, and they said, we don't want every principal to come up here and talk about their campus improvement plans. And so I know you wanted them all. But what we've done is we've selected just a representative of every level to share with you pieces of the campus improvement plan. So we will start the evening with Ms. Carter Melendez, our principal at Spring High School, and she's going to introduce to you one of the tools that we have, brand new tool that we acquired this summer to help in the development of the campus improvement plan. And I think you'll, just like the principals and campuses, I think you'll find great benefit. We also have our rookie principal, our principal, Ms. Williams, Kenesha Williams, our principal at Twin Creeks Middle School. And she volunteered, or was voluntold, no, she volunteered. And she's going to be talking to us tonight about the campus improvement process. And you'll remember and recall how we go through a continuous improvement process. She's going to share a little bit about the work that all of our campuses do. And someone we recognize today, and also our principal of the year, Ms. Gonzalez, and she'll be coming in tonight to talk about the needs assessment and how every campus goes through the process of really analyzing their needs and hitting the root causes in order to be able to develop their plans. And then finally, we have Dr. Long, Dr. Robert Long, and he's going to be sharing a little bit about the process. You recall, we have our K-12 Insight surveys. Specifically at the campuses, we have a school quality survey. And he will share how the principals and their leadership team take this data to really analyze it, create their goals and objectives for the coming year, and really work towards achieving those goals. And so, at this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Melendez.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I saw the name change there.
Yes, ma'am, I'm Melendez. He was not having the Carter remain. So thank you for allowing me to visit with you all this evening and sharing this information, Dr. Jensen, Dr. Watson, members of the board and cabinet. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Plan for Learning tool. And so what you see up here on the screen is basically a snapshot of the tool that we as principals were able to utilize when we were developing our campus improvement plans. And I've had the opportunity to do campus improvement plans at various places in various districts. And what I will tell you about this tool is it was very easy to navigate. What you can kind of see across the screen is it breaks it down by your needs assessment, your goals. But if you look over in that little corner in the top right where it says help, the help and the resources were just invaluable. There were tutorials, there were videos, there were manuals. There was even live help. If you wanted to chat with a representative from the company, you were able to ask a question, well, I'm stuck on this. Can you help me determine what the next course of action would be? So all of that was available for the tool as well. And then it allows you to see the development of the plan as we worked through the plan. So it wasn't a document where you were typing and going through it and you weren't sure where you were at any time during that development. You could actually populate the campus improvement plan and see where you are. And it also had a plan checklist so that you knew these were the things that I needed to cover, and it guided you step by step. It was very easy to use, and it made just the process much more 21st century. It wasn't the kind of just sitting in front of a computer, the principal in isolation, creating this document by yourself. And so what I want to talk to you too about a little bit is just about kind of what the tool did itself. So it monitored all school improvement plans in real time. This is not a document that sits in the principal's office, gets turned in, and it's just a stagnant document that nobody ever looks at again. It's a living document, and you'll see when my colleagues speak to you as well, that this is something that we're constantly going to have our hands on. It's not something that we did, we turned it in, and we're just checking it off a list of things to do. It has an in-depth comprehensive needs assessment. Ms. Gonzalez will talk a little bit about that more in detail, but in order to have an effective campus improvement plan, you need to have some data to determine where you're going. And so the tool itself builds in the capacity to populate data. And in fact, actually one of the things that I want to be able to learn next year is how to actually load the data straight from Eduphoria so that you don't have to even populate the data into the tool. It will do that for you. And then it gives you clarity and direction so that you're not just sitting in a room guessing about what you need to focus on, but the data is there for you to determine the course of action that will help your campus be successful. It links funding sources to goals, the campus performance objectives, and strategies. So you were able to actually say, this is the pot of money that I have for these specific activities or these specific groups of students, and then actually tie those back into the campus improvement plan. And that kind of ties into building into the state comp ed money. So what you were able to do is take that pool of money, and for example, at Spring High School, I was able to take that state comp ed money and embed in my plan to create a whole nother position of an ELL specialist, because I know that there's a great need on my campus to address our ESL students. And so also, finally, it just allows us to utilize the document in PLC. So one of the things also at Spring High School that we're doing this year is we're really trying to build teacher capacity and leadership. So we have something called the Pride Group now, which are our team leaders and our department heads. And so they're able to be part of this process too. It's not just the administrative team. So they have access to the document. The associate principal, myself, and the administrative team can go into the document at any given time and make changes to it. And so that just kind of reiterates that the tool just allows you. And one of the amazing things about it is the goals that you have established within the tool. The program will actually email you and remind you, hey, Ms. Melendez, this goal that you set, it's November. We need to check on it. And it will give you some kind of guided probing questions to kind of funnel to, this is a good reminder. When you get that little email in November, it pops up and it says, okay, this is what you said you were going to do. Are you doing it? I'll be excited when that email pops up. Hopefully we're doing all the things that we said that we were going to do. So it's just no longer just that traditional campus improvement plan that sits in a binder. It's really a very live tool that allows us to move forward. And I'm very excited about just working with it and learning even more about it for next year for myself, and I'm sure for my colleagues as well. So with that being said, I will hand it over to our rookie principal, but she's not a rookie at all, Ms. Williams from Twin Creeks Middle School.
Okay, so the component that I have is the Texas Accountability Intervention System, and there are 4 components to this process. The Texas Accountability Intervention System is state-created, and it's a state-created framework that's designed to provide support for implementation and monitoring of campus improvement plans to address low areas of performance. The 4 components consist of data analysis. This is the what. This is a review of all of the data down to the student level, which leads to identification of problem statements. The next component is the needs assessment. This is the why. This is where the district and the campus conducts a needs assessment to identify the root causes. The third component is improvement planning. This is the how. This is where the planning process is to develop an improvement plan which addresses findings from the data analysis and the needs assessment. The fourth component is implement and monitor. So this is where the improvement plan process is reviewed and feedback is provided based on the goals and the actions. The next slide talks about the continuous improvement process. As a district, we determined that we needed to take the state's required continuous improvement process and make it our own, which we call the Spring Way. There are 2 theories, the theory of change and the theory of action. The theory of action and the theory of change, we're turning that theory into practice and practice into success. We're being the change and we are achieving the change. There are 5 steps in the continuous improvement process. Number 1 is collecting and charting the data. We review the data from multiple sources, which includes on every campus, not only Twin Creeks, but all campuses, data conferences, data binders, and in those data binders, we include lead forward, snapshot, release tests, field guides, heat maps, system safeguards, STAR data, checkpoint data, benchmark data, TELPAS data, and soon to be MAP data. Number 2 is where we analyze the strengths and the barriers. This is where we brainstorm possible causes for the problem statement. Number 3 is the improvement plan and setting and revising the goals. We all have SMART goals. The district has goals, the campus has goals, the departments have goals, the teachers have goals, and the students have goals. Number 4 is where we're selecting the strategies and the result indicators. We select those strategies and we come up with our intervention activities to meet the goal, and we set the indicators for improvement. So all middle schools this year have intervention built into their schedules, and it consists of the numeracy intervention as well as the reading intervention. There are also intervention expectations. One of the things that we've done different this year at Twin Creeks is that we have look-fors for our interventions. And so we look for small group, we look for computer time, which may consist of Achieve 3000 or Reasoning Minds. We have individual collaboration. We have independent activities that are laser-focused and student-specific. Each student has a data folder and a tracking sheet, and we also look at stations. We ask the following questions. How will the interventions look? When will interventions take place? How do students work in groups and pairs? When will the stations be used? How will students be identified for centers and stations? What resources will be used in those stations? And number 5, we implement and we monitor. We determine what data will be reviewed, a timeline for the review. We determine implementation, we determine impact, and we adjust the plan to ensure success. These critical success factors are essential to the success of schools and students. These factors drive our strategic plan, Every Child 2020. It's the Spring Way. So now I will turn it over to our veteran principal, Ms. Gonzalez, and she will share needs assessment.
Okay. I'm going to address our comprehensive needs assessment, which is the driving force of your campus improvement plan. Many school data teams have become masters at collecting, analyzing, and using data in this comprehensive need assessment format. However, the shift from simply recording test results to reporting the findings of deep data analysis has a growing number of educators asking for a more interconnected way to structure the comprehensive needs assessment. Data does not come to us in a tight package. It spills over into the different measures, and when we evaluate the data, looking at it through different lenses, we come up with new meanings that come to surface. So it's this deeper, more sophisticated understanding of data that we need to continuously improve our schools. So the purpose of the comprehensive needs assessment is to examine multiple sources of data to provide an accurate picture of your school. But before me, Ms. Williams mentioned such hard data as STAR, TELPAS, soon to be MAP, the old iStation, benchmarks, checkpoints, and so forth. So when you look at this, it narrows the focus and is the driving force of your plan because it reveals your campus strengths and areas of concern through these 4 lenses, and it's up on the PowerPoint. It answers the questions of who are we? How well do we do our business? How are our students doing? And how do we use processes and programs to conduct our business? So the demographic data are very important for us to understand. We can use this data to observe trends. It is a data-driven description of the campus's staff, students, and community demographics. It identifies who we are at our campus by ethnicity, gender, and student groups. Then, of course, we look at soft data. We use the K-12 parent and school climate surveys and observations. We identify what our customers' perceptions are about our academic, behavioral, and social expectations at our campus. We gather and analyze data that helps us understand the systems we have in place that produce the results we are getting. For example, at Cooper this year, we saw a decline in the success of our SPED students. Because we used the continuous improvement process and we continued to ask the question why, we were able to identify the root cause, which was the need for a tighter schedule. Most important, the needs assessment identifies the strengths and weaknesses at your campus. It ensures that you're addressing the needs of all students so that we do reach Every Child 2020. So now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Dr. Long.
Good evening. So I get to talk to you guys about really just the school quality survey and how it really informs our decision making when it comes to the campus improvement plan. Sorry. So really it starts in the classroom with relationships. So the tool, well, first of all, let me go back just a little bit. The school quality survey helps educators engage their communities, solve critical issues related to culture, climate, and provides data that centers around a positive development of sustainment of human relationships. So this is the piece that really helps us focus on what the human beings are saying about the quality of work that we're doing with kids at our schools. Because you know that culture trumps strategy. So tonight it's my charge to share with you about how much we utilize this data from school quality and the survey to support our campus improvement plans from year to year. So it's basically data that's collected from human perception, providing both district and individual campuses with three main benefits. The first benefit being relationships, because it starts in the classroom. For example, in the 15-16 year, Thompson specifically, only 79% of students felt like their students were treated fairly. And so when we analyzed that data and it became a part of our campus improvement plan, we focused on how we could change that perception in working with our teachers, staff, parents, stakeholders. And so in the 16-17 school year, we had an increase that found that 90% of our parents felt like students were treated fairly. And so that went back to making sure that we're reinforcing CHAMPS, doing restorative circles, making sure that teachers are at the door greeting students, making it a welcoming and warm environment based on the perceptions of what our stakeholders had given us. The other benefit, of course, it extends to the community. It's a valuable tool that allows campuses to seek feedback from families, students, and district personnel in a free speak environment because it's totally anonymous, which is great feedback. Another benefit is the opportunities that it provides. The survey provides opportunities to better understand the perceptions of our district and our stakeholders. It allows districts to have human-driven insight so we have better understand how we can serve our community based on the needs of our perceived work. It also creates organizational and cultural improvements because the survey lets you know where your opportunities of growth are, saying you scored really high in this area, but here's some area that you really need to focus on. And so you can then shape your campus improvement plan to address such needs. The third benefit is that it engages. It gives us a very clear picture on customer service and customer feedback. It can be collected in a variety of ways that meets the needs of our kids and students and families. It can be emailed, it can be web linked. It can also be paper form in both English and Spanish. But it also collects actionable feedback. We know that feedback is the breakfast of champions, or at least that's what I always say at Thompson. And in spring, we know that we are champions. So this tool gives us data showing, again, our highest ranking indicators and also our lowest ranking indicators. For example, in 16-17 survey at Thompson, 96% of the parents felt that their students, that teachers and students and staff had high learning expectations and high expectations for students, which was an increase from the 15-16 year when it was only 70% of our parents felt that their students were being held at higher standards. So now that we've discussed the benefits of this invaluable tool, we'll now move into the components. And so there are 5 different components of the school quality survey, one being the academic support was really, do families feel that they're receiving high quality education? So in that first indicator, for example, I use my campus. For the 15-16 school year, our data showed that only 60% of our parents felt, or our families felt like they were receiving a quality education at Thompson. So that was a huge problem for us, and that was one that we focused on. And so we focused on, first of all, really understanding what their definition of high quality instruction was. So we had to do some engaging there. And then once we understood that, we put systems in place, we put meetings in place, we've had conversations and connected. And this year, in our 16-17 school year, 89% of our families strongly agreed that their child was receiving high quality education at Thompson. The other piece is, number 2, of course, is student support. what supports are needed for academic success, which means is there an appropriate adult where kids feel safe to go to and share if they have a need or concern? Are students being treated fairly regardless of race, culture, religion, sexual orientation, and gender? As far as school leadership, do administrators plan and take action on feedback? How are actions perceived by our students, our staff, our teachers? Are we really living, are our actions really showing that we're in alignment with the Spring Way, and are we doing what we're supposed to do with our kiddos? Also, family development, how do our families want to be involved? What we found this year's data, which was very interesting, was we had been doing all these activities that were like after school and at night because that's what we thought parents really wanted. But when we got the feedback, we know that parents still wanted to be engaged in a different way, and we really didn't understand, so we pulled a focus group together. And what came out of that is just like we need to differentiate for our kids in the classroom, our parents really wanted a different array of activities. Like some can only come in the morning, some have to come in midday, so we had to change the way that we deliver family engagement on our campus so that we could meet the needs of them. And all that was possible because of the benefits of the school quality survey. And then the last, or number 5, is safety and behavior. How do kids feel on campus? How do staff and students interact? Are staff responsive to students reporting bullying? And are students, staff, and families aware of safety protocols? So with the 5 components of the school quality survey, we get some great insight on interventions, supports, and things that we need to put in place as we continue to move towards our goal attainment of Every Child 2020 and our Be the Change initiatives. So Madam Board President, Dr. Watson, distinguished board members and cabinet, that's our portion. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, we've got all of our principals here, with the exception of Ms. Broughton, our principal at Marshall. She had a family emergency and couldn't be here with us, but we do have our assistant principal, Ms. Lewis, Ms. Sandra Lewis, that's here from Marshall. So all of our principals are here. If you have any questions specific to the process or to their plans, we're open to entertain them.
Dr. Enosa, we received this Thursday night, and we had other things we had to read for the meeting, okay? We've been working very hard, but I will admit I have not read every line in this. I have tried mightily, let me tell you. I think the last time I tried to read something this long, it was Tolstoy's novel, War and Peace. But I will tell you that this was far more engaging than War and Peace. One thing I kept noticing were, while schools are so individual sometimes in their demographics or their problems with student moving in and out and that sort of thing, I really did see some commonality. So I was very interested, Principal Long, when you were talking about engaging parents the way you did. I will tell you, time after time after time, I saw in the needs assessment where schools said that sometimes they were doing a bang-up job, but they weren't communicating to the parents, or sometimes that they needed parent help and they couldn't get the parents in. And then I'd hit a school where they had activity after activity after activity where they were just bringing in the parents by the truckload, you know. So I would like to know, some of you who really got these problems that we're seeing district-wide working for you, and it sounds like you do, Principal Long. Do you have a forum where you get to trade these wonderful ideas?
Yes, yes, absolutely. You know, we not only have our principal learning sessions where Dr. Hinojosa and Ms. Fontenot always give us the opportunity to share the best of ideas. In fact, I've already got an email from Ms. Fontenot about sharing at the next principal meeting. but also in our zone meetings with our and Miss Williams already got volunteered for some items too. So we are an actual functioning professional learning community where we do.
The principals are.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
wonderful.
The principals,
Okay.
and even in Zone 2, we have our own smaller PLCs because some of our needs are a little different than some of the Zone 2 principals. But we all do come together. On top of that, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, but we also have group me's that when we get an idea, we'll just shoot it to each other and say, does that work? Because we know that no one person is smarter than a collective body of knowledge. And so we really try to leverage that because we all need help and we're all in the same fight of doing what's best for kids. So
Okay, and Principal Long, another thing I kept seeing time after time among the schools was that teachers did not have the training or experience they needed to be successful with an urban student or a student that's at risk or a certain ethnic group. I wondered, how is your Texas A&M project going with those student teachers in urban education?
fantastic, but it's just not me. There's lots of supports. I have tremendous support from Mr. Keithan's office as well as from Dr. Hinojosa and Dr. Natasha Watson, my Zone 2, but also from Ms. Fontenot. I have like Dr. Tamika Bruce. We have lots of systems that are supporting, but even on my campus, my leadership team is extraordinary. I have one of the strongest leadership teams. I would say I'd put them against anyone in the state that really nurtures and develops, as well as the classroom mentor teachers that are working alongside with these young ladies. You know, they have moved, they've given up their senior year in college, you know, at Texas A&M, which is a big thing. We have football games and everything, and they've moved into this environment, and they are vested. You know, they're vested, and they're learning right alongside. What's really great is, you know, we have the 3 from last year who are now actually teaching at Thompson, and they're loving it, and they're on their grade levels and striving and being successful. But now we have 6 others who are now indoctrinated in that process, and so, you know, it's very interesting to watch and learn. We're learning a lot about induction, but we're learning a lot about the importance of having real dialogue about really what it takes, and then understanding the different lifestyles that our kids come from and what those different challenges are, and then them doing their own sense making of how do they compartmentalize and break it down from what they knew growing up, and not to throw, I guess, their perceptions on those kiddos, but really trying to understand how they can meet those students where they are. It's really about building those really strong, effective relationships, because you know that the best teaching happens in the presence of great pedagogy and strong relationships. So those are really the critical pieces that make the program successful so far. And we're just hoping to keep growing that program because we love it, and it's been very beneficial to the district, but also to the campus.
And I know you don't want to lose your critical mass because there's quite a bit of advantages to having a group at Thompson Elementary. But is this, once again, do you get to share this with the PLCs throughout the district?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's great.
Yes, ma'am. And I think the tutoring, yes. And so, yes, ma'am. Thank you. And so, so this year that's going to be unique because, of course, we can't keep all the ladies at Thompson, and I don't want to. The whole program is to make us a stronger, as a district, a stronger teaching force. So they will be tutoring at other campuses with similar cultures, and so they will be leaving Thompson and start tutoring at site campuses. I can't remember the exact name for what we call them, those other campuses. But we've identified 2 campuses that they'll be going to. One is Heritage, one is at Beneke, and they'll be getting to know those campuses and those cultures so that as the year goes, they'll become more familiar with the hope that they move into another spring school. Because we're not going to lose them. They're going to stay in spring, but they'll go to another school, and they'll be familiar with that staff and those students as well to help that process that transition a little smoother.
And I think Cooper's been doing a fantastic job in this area since its inception. So, I mean, I would love to clone you
Can I follow up?
Yeah, I'm
Just,
sorry.
uh,
Back up.
even with the school like Cooper, I noticed that they're trying to decrease the achievement gap, or handle the achievement gap with a certain segment of their students over there. I think in your case, you all are looking at your first grade readers.
Yes, sir.
With our other two schools, they have problems that I think are pretty consistent in parental participation. Certainly at the high school level, at the middle school level, we see that probably. That's where my mom dropped off at, and that's where I dropped off. Her participation dropped off at junior high in my case. So again, we've always got room to improve, even with the Cooper and the Northgate, and so these are good. We haven't looked at them all. You can tell I've looked at some. I peeked while you guys were talking. I looked at your plans, and I do expect to look at the other ones as well. And thank you guys for the hard work that went into this.
So I did notice Beneke got a distinction designation in closing performance gaps. I'd want to hear from Beneke.
Come on down.
So Ms. Harris is here, and I know we have a big star because they're going for all of the distinctions next year.
Hello. Yes, in closing the performance gap. So one of the things we decided to do this year is to focus on all of our students and not just the students who are underperforming, because I know that's sometimes a trend, what we tend to do, but to focus on all of our students, the students who were performing, the students performing on grade level, below grade level, and put specific interventions in place for all of those levels so that the students who are just performing at level can increase their performance as well.
But congratulations, because Dr. Watson knows that I've been looking at this for a long time, and it seems like nationwide, this is the toughest nut to crack. And you did it.
Yeah.
You did it.
So I have a question. We have some really great successes. Are we looking at, I know we do a lot of staff development and training and how we can take the pieces that work and overall create a campus improvement plan that can be mirrored and shared throughout the district?
So we
Don't run away. She got out of there quick.
I was like, don't go too far, and she walked away. But I actually, and you know that I think Dr. Long talked a little bit about it, is that replication. And how do we, I think Dr. Jensen, you asked a lot about how do we share best practices. And for the first time last year, we were very intentional when we identified and we knew the state had identified Bammel Elementary as an underperforming school, and you know we had been IR. And so when we looked at what was going to happen, part of the work was not only doing this work at Bammel Elementary, but having a sister school at Major Elementary and replicating, right? Working together those same specific strategies to see, first and foremost, implement with fidelity, and then secondly, how does it work from campus to campus? And then how do we take those strategies and start replicating in other schools? And as you know, and we've celebrated, Bammel Elementary did a phenomenal job under Dr. Wallaby, and we saw great success there as well as Major. And so there were specific strategies, and you probably have heard part of the work when we talk about the Spring Way. We talked and implemented last year threshold, greeting our students, acknowledging them by name. Board configurations, that's one of the structures that we are using this year district-wide. However, we implemented last year at Bammel and at Major and worked with the teachers specifically in training them, making sure they understood it, making sure we saw success. And then this year we're stepping back and saying, okay, now let's replicate district-wide. And you'll see throughout the year, and we've got a whole calendar laid out of effective strategies that have been research proven, but also Spring ISD proven. And now let's take it and spread it district-wide.
Yes, I think
Absolutely.
we have a golden opportunity here to take these successes, almost create a template. You know, when we know we have campuses that struggle with mobility, you know, and we can see where this has been successful at one, let's replicate it at the others.
And I was hoping that Ms. Harris would stay a little bit longer to talk about her parent engagement and parent involvement, right? So there's a piece about parent involvement, just coming in and participating at a meeting, but how do you engage the parents? And she's been extremely successful with engaging parents that now other schools are replicating.
So some of the things that that we've done at Beneke is pairing a curriculum night with a basketball program or a basketball game, because we found that the parents will come out for those types of programs. So if you pair those with something curriculum, you know, sometimes we don't tell them. They just come out, and then we welcome them in the school and walk around and do some of those curriculum things. And then we let them know basketball is about to start, and they're okay with it, and increase participation that way.
Fantastic. Good. Good.
I got to say I was also interested that several campuses identified the same need, but their solutions were all different. It's just fascinating to me. So I think we board members, have some thinking to do about how, when we go visit schools this year and look at how this plan is working for you. I just, these were the most readable campus improvement plans I've encountered in my time on the board.
So my question would be, is there something else that we could implement or that is a need to help us continue in this direction and maybe even improve upon the process? I know, go ahead.
One of the things I think is what we do with our zone meetings. The principals come together this year. Our zone meetings are during the day. I get to host the first zone meeting this Thursday. Excited about that. And I think just walking the campus, actually looking at instruction and talking about those focus areas. Because I think sometimes when you're in a principals meeting, you're talking about them, but then to actually see them in practice and have collaborative discussions about best practices and share. And I think that's what will help us continue to grow.
Okay. Some more hands-on.
Ms. Melendez, I hope you get that data dump out of Eduphoria, because, you know, technology was supposed to make our work easier, but I sometimes have my doubts. Yeah. Yeah,
great tool.
And on the parent communication, so many people had so many different. It wasn't just Twitter, but many apps that they were going to try out. So we really want to hear what works on those.
Well, we definitely try to utilize social media at Spring High School. You know, we have our campus Twitter and our Facebook. But one of the things that we're actually going to do this year is Mr. Morse is kind of like our community liaison. So I had him contact the presidents of all the booster clubs. And we're actually meeting with the presidents of all the booster clubs because that's pretty much your parental involvement. And they, especially when you're talking about the band booster club and the football booster club, I mean, you're talking about tons and tons of parents that we're just not capitalizing on. So I'm excited to meet with them. And one of the things, too, that we did was we got all of their social media handles so that we would be able to share when volleyball does something. It's very powerful if FFA Twitters about it or the football team tweets about it. It doesn't just have to be in isolation. So we're really looking forward to that, too, as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
We know it's a long day for you, so thank you for being here with us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we can have all the principals
So thank you, Dr. Jensen, and I know we'd like to have our plans approved as we've begun implementation. We've done a restart, but we've begun implementation. And I also want to take 1 second to recognize our assistant superintendents of our schools, as well as our officer, Kim Fontenot, and the work and leadership that they provide the principals in the development of their campus improvement plan. If our assistant soups and our officer, if you will stand. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa. Ms. Hill, do we have anyone registered to speak to this agenda item under public hearing?
No, Madam President, we do not.
Then thank you, Ms. Hill. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the 2017-2018 campus improvement plans as presented by the administration.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the 2017-2018 campus improvement plans as presented by our principals and administration.
It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Jana Gonzalez that the Board of Trustees approve the 2017-2018 campus improvement plans as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion? Right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much, principals, for making, leading
Safe travels
groups and
home.
making these. And
Good night.
Good night.
we're still reading them.
Earlier.
Get rest.
Cup of coffee.
Who's got the door blocked?
All right. For our next item, I would like to again recognize our Chief of School Leadership and Student Support Services, Lupita Hinojosa.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen, and members of the board, Dr. Watson, and I know Mr. Baxter just stepped out. You saw him
Sorry.
here earlier. I know, so hopefully they'll catch him, but just to recognize him, and this is the work, we talked a little bit about it last Thursday in our work session. And so tonight we bring to you the request to approve the affiliation agreement with Universal Technical Institute, which is the UTI, that we will be using at Dekaney High School specifically for the Autotech pathway. UTI will, in partnering with Spring ISD and Dekaney High School, will provide the Autotech lab for Dekaney High School students to use for hands-on learning and skills training coursework. We're very excited at this opportunity because in actuality, we will be able to use the Autotech lab at UTI, and our teacher, our Autotech teacher, will have the opportunity to travel with our juniors and our seniors to do hands-on work on cars, on engines, on body work, free of charge. So this is one of our first partnerships in order to be able to provide our students this hands-on learning. I think we didn't catch him.
They went to run them down.
They went to run him down. Aw. But it is something, and as you know, our number of students has tremendously increased. We knew that the ask was there from our students, and that's why we specifically planned to move the pathway there, and the students have responded.
I'm really excited about the pathways as well as the agreements that we're entering into with our business partners that afford our students opportunities for not just your traditional 4-year college degrees, but to receive certification and hand-on experience to build a trait that they'll be able to make a career for them and in their future and their families. And so I'm real proud of the work that we're doing in that area.
And I just love these partnerships. You know, we were faced with some substantial costs to set up an auto tech lab. And here we found a local nearby partner who had the room and invited us in for no cost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And our goal is to provide the students those experiences, but most importantly, the opportunity for them to secure their licenses and their certifications in this area. So when they graduate from Dekaney High School, they'll be able to enter the workforce at a much higher pay scale than if they were just coming out of high school. So, Mr. Baxter,
please come forward.
Dr.
Dr. Baxter. We're very excited about the automotive program you're going to have for Dekaney.
We want you to come up.
Come up.
So, Mr. Baxter, the board is considering the affiliation agreement that we have with UTI, where we're taking our students and our teacher over to the UTI lab so that they can participate in the hands-on experience. And I was sharing with them the huge increase in students enrolled, and Mr. Ant was talking about the opportunity for our students to get this hands-on learning in the field prior to graduating. Want to talk a little bit about big increase that we've
So
had.
gone from one automotive teacher to 2 automotive teachers because of the interest that the students have. Our plan this year, our plan on the table this year is to have an Automotive 1 and an Automotive 2 program. Automotive 1 is the beginners program. Automotive 2 is the program where the students will actually go over to UTI and get hands-on lab experience. And then, of course, grow that to the extent where that becomes a program where those students spend a part of their academic day over there as a traveling program where students can go over and do practicum, actual lab practicum. They'll graduate, of course, with their diploma and their certificate.
That's fantastic.
So we had a little hiccup this year where we lost our teacher who we were training for that, but with the support of the Human Resources Department and Howard, because I know they were out beating those bushes, we were able to attract 2 individuals who both came to us. One of them, as a matter of fact, has been a teacher at one of the automotive training facilities and knows the connection, has a connection with UTI. So we feel confident that the guys we've brought in are going to be the fellows who can move the program forward. And as long as that's a student interest area, then we want to take advantage of that, continue building those opportunities for our kids.
That's fantastic.
And I know Dekaney provides an academic environment as well as the technical training, and that these students can go to Lone Star next, I understand, to complete their training?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And you're right. This is not just. This is not the old shop class.
Yes.
These are academic, technical classes.
Yeah.
These students leave that program ready to go to work.
Fantastic. That's
Either
exciting.
that, or certainly they can continue there at UTI. And all we've got to do is look up and down Interstate 45 to see that there's certainly a need
Yes, sir.
for that area. But we've got to have the capacity and the resources to adequately train them. So looks like we're headed in the right direction.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting that program at your school.
Sorry,
And you can go home now.
I'm leaving.
Thank you.
I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the affiliation agreement with Universal Technical Institute as presented by the administration.
Madam President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the affiliation agreement with Universal Technical Institute as presented by the administration.
Do I-
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Jana Gonzalez and seconded by Justine Durant that the Board of Trustees approve the affiliation agreement with Universal Technical Institute as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. Our next item is the consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Chris Bell that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. Next is the public participation portion of our meeting. Chief Hill, do we have anyone registered to speak under public participation?
No, Madam President, we do not.
I do want you to know, Ms. Hill, that when I meet people in the community, I keep encouraging them. Obviously, what I'm doing isn't working. I'm going to look through these things about the community involvement here. Thank you. The Board of Trustees will now recess this open session and convene in a closed meeting in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized. Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072, for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. And no voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in the closed meeting will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. The time is now 9:37 p.m. And resume the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is now 9:53 p.m. We will now address the items discussed during closed session. Are there any motions?
Madam President, I move the board render a final order to terminate the contract of Sylvia Pepitone Adams and authorize the superintendent to notify the employee of the action taken by the board.
It's been moved by Jana Gonzalez and seconded by Justine Durant that the board render a final order to terminate the contract to Sylvia Pepitone Adams and authorize the superintendent to notify the employee of the action taken by the board. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Are there any other motions?
Yes, I move that the board recognize the employee of the month for September as discussed in closed session.
It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Donald Davis that the board approve the employee of the month as discussed in closed session. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. There are no other items on tonight's agenda, so I will now entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Jana Gonzalez and seconded by Chris Bell that we adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. There being no further business, this meeting is officially adjourned at 9:55 p.m. Thank you, trustees.